I'd like to start by quoting Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a jurist and an eminent associate, an associate judge of the Supreme Court of the US, who says that fight for what you care about, and ensure you do it in a way that inspires others to join you and lead with you. A lot of what we do as in-house lawyers and general counsels is about doing things the right way. And every day there's a new set of challenges and opportunities. Some of us look at it as battles. Some of us look at it as opportunities to turn around our organizations and our businesses. So when I walk into a room filled with general counsels, I'm filled with awe and I'm filled with a deep sense of respect, because it's one of the toughest roles to essay in an organization. Needless to say, even if you have a clear description for that role, we can all admit that a lot of the things that a general counsel or an in-house counsel does goes way beyond the remit of what we should typically do. So when an in-house lawyer says that they're dealing with, say, a plumbing issue in their office, it's because maybe somebody in their real estate or maintenance team didn't address it appropriately. And we are seen as natural problem solvers. So I'm so excited to have this conversation because we're going to have a freewheeling one where we talk about corporate governance, we talk about strategy, we talk about risk mitigation, and most importantly, how do you crack the collaboration code, right? Because all of us here, we have to work with stakeholders who are representatives of the business. They are also finance experts. We have auditors. And unless we approach them in a collaborative manner, it's very difficult to work together. Especially in a post-COVID world, where all of us work in hybrid environments, it becomes imperative to have a common language which in-house lawyers can speak, so that people quickly understand what are the issues, what are the risks, every time they're dealing with an issue. Before I dive into this conversation and I start quizzing each of my fellow panelists, I just want to share my own personal experience being a general counsel. One of the reasons I feel very conflicted sometimes in this role is because on the one hand, you are advising your business and you're representing a business as a senior executive, a part of the leadership team. But on the other hand, sometimes when you have to give very hard-hitting advice or take a hard line, you feel like your independence is snatched or compromised. And if you notice, in a lot of our in-house roles, our pay structures, our roles are completely determined, including our performance is completely determined by how the business perceives us. Quote unquote, we are business enablers, right? So that is the reason why being an in-house lawyer is sometimes far more, I would say, mind-boggling than just being a litigator. So all of you who are litigators in this room, please don't throw brickbats at that statement. It's just coming from a space of experience, of knowing how tough it is to handle a very varied group of people. When you address really sensitive topics like governance and corporate strategy and risk mitigation, it brings to mind an assignment that I worked on a few months ago. As an in-house lawyer, we are often taught and we are expected to think of ways in which we can protect our businesses and do it in a very efficient way, do it in a seamless way, and sometimes in a not so obvious way. A few months back, somebody from my one of my senior sales leaders had reached out to me. I work in a technology company, one of the oldest technology companies in the world, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. And they wanted to enter into a transaction where they were going to work with a channel partner or a distributor to sell hardware and some AI-related GPU servers to a government customer. Once we started doing a due diligence, so legal was asked to step in and do a quick due diligence on the distributor because we found some irregularities in the way that channel partner was reporting some of their internal figures and facts. When my team and I started doing the review, we noticed that those irregularities seemed fairly glaring. And I had to immediately advise my business team not to proceed with that transaction. It was met with a lot of backlash, pushback, and there was a lot of pressure to go ahead and say yes. But we had to constantly inform the senior leadership team of the repercussions of going ahead with the deal like that. I'm extremely grateful that I had India CEO who completely understood what the ramifications of taking a decision, a brash decision like that would have been. And he supported me and he said, look, we're going to lose around 100 million USD of revenue. But looking at the larger fallout here, which is reputational loss, there could have been potential grey marketing diversions because those products would have ended up maybe in some markets somewhere in Uzbekistan or one of those sanctioned embargoed countries. So looking at the larger picture, he said, we will stick with the decision that you were recommending. A few months down the line, there was a media report where this particular distributor was named in a massive grey market diversion scandal. And the first person who called me that day was my India CEO. And he said, I'm so glad that we took a pause and we listened to what you said. Before we started this conversation, I was chatting with Zameer and we were talking about the power of the pause. And even Abhishek was talking about how important it is to pause and reflect in a role, in a general counsel role, because there are times when you have the ability to pause and think and reflect and make the right decisions. And sometimes there are instances where there's absolutely no time and you have to take decisions at a breakneck speed. In this conversation, we hope to contextualize our experiences based on each of the industries we represent, and we hope you will also enjoy this conversation. So with that, I'll quickly pass it on first to Rajiv ji. So we'd like to hear from you what your perception is of risk management, governance, and how do you think corporate strategy is getting shaped by an in-house counsel and by you as a general counsel?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, Ryder, that whatever I express here is my own personal views and need not reflect the views of my organization. So I think your question on risk and governance, I think first of all, there is no business without risk. So risk is inherent part of the business. And I have worked with like many companies and many business leaders, and they have their own targets. They have their own, performance metrics, which they have to achieve. And basically what we have seen is that they sometimes are so blind-sighted by their own target or performance that they do not are not conscious that what can go wrong. And I think that is where general counsel have a very important role to play as part of the risk management, is the ability to stop them, be the gatekeeper and tell and question them, in a particular transaction or business, what can go wrong. Like it's, if you are taking a long-term contract, say for 5 years, you are only looking at the positive side, and generally in business projections are made, but there are always downside. It may be, there can be various issues. Let's take my industry. So I am working for a corporate which is mainly into cement and sugar and refractory. So suppose you are bidding for a new mine, and you have made an assumption that I will give so much of premium on the auction and I'll get the mine. Then I have to do a land acquisition. They have to get certain approvals, right, from environment clearance. God forbid, if there is a forest, you have to take forest clearance. And above all, if there is, if there is a land which is under a scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, then it is even more cumbersome. And then finally, you have to set up the plant, and then the production will come. Now, in the entire process, there are a lot of assumptions. You draw a complete plan in terms of, I will get the lease, then I will do the land acquisition, then I will get the clearance. And most of the projects are also backed by, you take a debt or a loan, and there is a financial commitment. There is the CFO will make the forecast in terms of cash flows, that this is how the cash flows will come, and then I will start paying the loan. And if you are a listed entity, you have to maintain there are covenants in the loan in terms of debt equity ratio and so many other covenants. So the entire presumption is based on an ideal situation. No, when you go and hit the ground, you may face a situation where your auction may itself get into a dispute, or if you have taken an environment clearance, the environment clearance itself can be challenged in the National Green Tribunal by certain, there are NGOs who challenge clearances. And so I'll give you one more example. For example, if you are doing an environment clearance, there is a requirement of doing the EC by taking 4-season data. Now there is some rationale why you need to take 4-season data, because typically if I take the example of Delhi, the environment is very different in winters and it is very different in monsoon season, because in monsoon you have rain and the sky is much cleaner. All the suspended particulate matter comes down with the rain is more clear, whereas winters, because of the temperature and all and other contributing factors, the average air quality index is very bad. So there is a reason for doing 4-season data. Now the guy who is doing environment clearance, he is inclined to do fast track by doing 1-season data. So you have done 1-season data and taken the EC, and later the EC gets challenged, your entire assumption and presumption of the projects goes for a toss. So if the law says that if you have to take 4-season data, as a GC, if you are involved, you have to stop them. Please don't take a shortcut. I just gave a very detailed example to highlight that GCs need to be, one is the law, and then also understand the practical aspects. Today, there is so much of development which is going on, various facets of, law. I just gave an example of mining or EC. It may be today you are acquiring some property, you are buying some office from somebody, and you have to do due diligence in terms of PMLA, that the person from whom you are buying the property, is it from a legal source, or there is a possibility of you becoming proceeds of crime. So I think the role of GC today spreads from various facets of business, and I think it is extremely, extremely challenging to keep, because you are seen as a guy who comes with a kind of stop gate, that you can't do this. So making the business leaders understand what can go wrong, I think this is the biggest challenge today, which as General Counsel we face. But if you are really adding value and giving the right perspective, I think there are business leaders, and that is how I think you build the equity within the organization as a very trusted advisor. If you really add value, if you really tell them, then if there is a problem, sit with them and find a solution. Just telling the problem is not sufficient. So I think businesses are exposed to various risks, and risk is inherent part. I may be doing acquisition, it may be a business transfer agreement. It can be asset sale. Now there is an impact of GST which can come. The CFO wants a legal advice from me. I say, see, I can't give you a 100% safe answer, which is 100% secure. There are possibilities, so based on judicial precedent and the law, there is a possibility which is the probability is less than 50%. So there is a situation where the probability can be more than 50%. So it's a strict no-go. But if the probability is below 50%, but I can't guarantee that the tax department will not come after my company. It will still come, but I will be able to defend it, if not in one court, in the highest court of law with the best of the counsels available. But to say that you will not get a tax demand, I cannot guarantee that. So I think there are various facets in businesses which we are thrown every day, and we have to kind of go into the depth and advise the businesses. And I think that's the role which General Counsel has to play today in terms of various facets of business. I think I'll stop here and we'll take the conversation going forward.
Thank you so much, Rajiv ji. I would, on that note, pass the same question on to Manish ji. Just want to understand what do you think you've been able to accomplish in terms of shaping corporate strategy in your current organization? How do you think that evolution has been, and what have been some of your key takeaways?
Okay, all that what I say is my opinion and nothing pertains to my past or present company. So I'm sitting in good company and I adopt what my brother said. And if you were to look at risk, as Rajiv very correctly pointed out, there is nothing, the biggest risk in life is not having taken one. So risk, how do you manage risk is more important. Taking risk is not a bad thing, but it should not go to the other extreme that the teleserial which was there, risk hai to ishq hai. It should not go to that extent, to that extreme. But risk is something which you have to manage in life, and ultimately you should be able to take those risks which you should survive to make another one. If you take risks in life which are so fatal that you do not survive to take the next one, you should not. And it is not. So ultimately we have to play some kind of a role. And I was discussing with somebody outside, the general counsels their role should be like salt. Their presence should not be seen, but their absence must be felt. So therefore, if the legal function is becoming prominent and is seen everywhere, there is something wrong with the company. So risk is something which we all live with. So ultimately, if it is going to be a risk of somebody getting arrested, risk of reputation, I think those are best avoided. But it is only that margin, that gray areas in life where you do not know whether it is a commercial risk or a legal risk are the larger ones where you have to take sometimes a punt. And sometimes once you become a business enabler, some lawyers forget the fact that in a vehicle you have a clutch, a brake and an escalator. A car having two escalators will meet an accident. You need some of the legal people to work as brakes, and those brakes are there so that you can go smoothly. Another analogy would be that of friction. We all hate friction, whether in organizations, whether on the road or otherwise. But if there was no friction, there would be no cars on the road. They are necessary for the cars to run smoothly. Friction is the principle on the basis of which car tires are made. So ultimately, we have to do some kind of a risk analysis and come to a very sane conclusion. So I'll just give you an anecdote. So in the old times, and so far as the Lala concerns were there and things of that nature, a risk assessment report was made which ran into 150 pages. So they got it before the committee and before Lalaji, and they said that this is what our risk assessment committee is. And the Lalaji said that I don't have the patience or time for your nonsense. Tell me in one line what is going to happen. In one sentence, if you are not able to tell me, then the message is not home. He says that if you do so, you will get a sentence. So that is what happens. Sentence meaning that you will go to jail. So sometimes we have to be articulate. Sometimes we need to tell them what the risk is. And some risks need to be taken in life while others needs to be avoided, and some kind of a balance needs to be brought in. That is how the business functions.
Thank you so much. Zameer, in your organization, how do you see yourself shaping corporate strategy, and what is some of the risk management mechanisms you have put in place?
Hi, good evening, everyone. First of all, congratulations to all the winners of the award and their mentors. I think in the organization where I work, which is CarDekho, It's an online platform for used car, new car financing and car insurance. All right, see how the data is important. You buy a car, then we finance you and then we also give you insurance. So we really use data as an oil, right? Now, when we talk about risk management and risk mitigation in a data environment of so rich, you are not even aware about the data which is collected from you. All right, I'll give you 2 examples outside CarDekho also. So you have a food delivery app where you can order your pizza or anything food. What's the amount of data they collect from you? All right, on one order of your sandwich or something. I have some 100 data points, starting your name, contact details, physical address, order history, payment mechanism, save payment, order frequency, average spending, so and so, so and so, so and so. So they collect about 100 data points for you. All right. What does your beautiful iPhone, for which you pay an heavy amount, collect the data from you on everyday basis? 190. There's a list officially which is available. All right. So 190 data points are collected from you every day by when you're using your beautiful iPhones. That's the amount of data which is flowing across in the digital companies, right? How do you handle, mitigate that particular kind of data in an organization? Because you are a data rich company, which means every sales, marketing, business development wants to exploit that data so that I can reach your home first, then others, right? We follow 6 policies in our organization. So we have a data policy in place, which includes the first item as classification of data. All right. What's classification of data? One example to you. When you buy a car or sell your car on CarDekho, we can also pitch you for financing. If you have a car, you may require a finance. If you have a car, you require an insurance, right? If you take an insurance from us, can my guy also call you to sell finance and sell the car? There's a sensitivity of data which is there, all right? Because today when I have an insurance business where I'm insuring you, I also can approach you with that data for whether you're interested in buying a car and whether you're interested in getting a finance for that car. So we have a data classification at the first premium itself, that you classify the data, specific data, what we used to say personal data and sensitive data, right? Personal data is your name, etc. And your sensitive data is your data, which is your credit card, etc. So we classify that data. Now under the law also, if you see, you can't use those specific data unless there is a consent by the user. So how do company maneuver that? You can always use an analysis. How many people between age of 20 and 28 have taken insurance policy from me? All right, so I get a number about 1 lakh people have taken, which means I'm able to now figure out what is my target market which takes the highest insurance. Okay, so classification of data we have kept. Number 2 is that we have said that there should be a database management. You can't be floating as a story of Facebook and Cambridge Analytica where you enter in an agreement and you sell out those data to any and everyone. Number 3, what we have done is the consent management. Have you taken the specific consent from the user? All right, law is going to catch up with you. Number 5, we have introduced a policy of data risk management. What's the risk of exposure, right? Today, you have the best of the antivirus software. Nobody can guarantee you. Even the AWS and iCloud or Microsoft storage we are using, if you read somewhere their terms and conditions, they have very specifically written that we are subject to hacking and therefore please put your own mechanism in place. All right. You must have never read it because it will consist of hundreds of pages. Number 6, what's the risk mitigation? If sometimes there is a leak of the data which has happened, what do I do in that situation? So these are some things we have put in place. This is how we manage our data. Number 1, data policy. Number 2, classification of data. Number 3, database management. Number 4, consent rights. Number 5, is our data risk management, and number 6 is risk mitigation. That's the policy we have put in place to handle the kind of mammoth data we have. That's from our side.
Thank you, Zameer. My question for Abhishek is, as a representative of a law firm, and when you advise clients, what are some of the strategies that you often explore with your clients, especially from a risk management perspective or governance perspective? And given that you advise a lot of startups and SMEs, how do you help them frame their narrative around risk? Because that's a very volatile space to operate in, right? All these entrepreneurial ventures, and India is, I think, the second largest, geography filled with startups. So given we have such a vibrant startup ecosystem, how do you advise your clients on risk management?
So, very well said. And like what I say is that we are at present living in a digital age where technology is growing, new ways of doing business is growing. And even if I look at the CarDekho, where sir very well said that data is a new oil for them. And the law is evolving over there as well with respect to the utilization of that data. AI is there in the business, and so the risk as well as how to manage and control these risks is also there. Role of in-house counsel has increased a lot, and so does, since the law is evolving, so does this is a kind of opportunity as an external counsel. This is an opportunity for the external counsel as well. So in everyday's life, we are learning. We are, as sir said, that we are taking risk, and risk we have to take. We have to let go few things for the larger good of the business or for the larger good of any transaction which we are doing. As an external counsel, our role is varied as well as limited. Varied in a sense that we have to work upon or assist. Our role is assisting as well. Our role is varied with respect to we have to assist in multiple facets to the in-house counsels, and limited in a sense that our role is to complement as well as to assist those in-house counsels, and to bring in our specialized as well as experienced knowledge of dealing with various transactions to the in-house counsel. Though as external counsel, our role is also, as a statute requires, to represent before the courts and the judicial forums. But in addition to that, we also have to assist, bring knowledge, specialization to the in-house counsel and assist them in forming the strategies. Forming strategies with respect to evolving laws, forming strategies with respect to the challenges which are over there. Though in-house counsels, as in they have the larger perspective. They are dealing with the company and in all functions, starting from plumbing issue to the land acquisition deals or the utilization of the data. So they are everywhere. So our role is to strategize, sitting with them, sharing their workload, as well with respect to while forming the strategies, we also as an external counsel look at the worst situation. Worst situation, like we also have to look at what is plan A, what is plan B, what is plan C, what's going to happen if these issue arises. As in, we have to let go few risk, we have to negotiate hard in a way that what we require, that what we also have to, what we should have it, what we require, and let go few things. So while dealing with the SMEs, while dealing with startups and even the mature companies as well, we have to be very much thoughtful, mindful with respect to dealing with or defining their term sheets, defining their transaction strategies, discussing with the in-house counsels, discussing with the founders. So that mindfulness need to be there, and we also have to alarm them every time that what is going to happen if we follow X strategy or we follow Y strategy, and the risk attached to those strategies. So we need to be mindful always, and considering that increasing technology, like to make use of that AI, those tools to share the data, to save upon our time, and put most of the time, like these AI will be doing the groundwork, and most of the time we'll be putting over to forming the strategies. This is what we follow, we do, and this is what a kind of a advice to the legal profession, because legal profession is a fundamental pillar to the business. If most of the businesses fail because if they are not aligned fundamentally with the object of that business. So we need to be mindful over that. Role of in-house counsel, since I'm talking about the role of in-house counsel as well, because they are into the system, they know in and out, and their role is also like when they strategize the thing, that would be adding value, that would be adding governance to the system. And once the company is governed, which is much above the codified law, which talks about the interest of the public stakeholders as well as public at large. So there, that also add value when the company is fully governed, or because that is, you can say that adds trust among the stakeholders. That is the foundation stone. So if there is, then by these legal counsels, that would be adding the value to the company, that would be adding that value and expansion to the business. And once there is and like also the bringing investments as well, that would help. So role of in-house counsels as well as legal profession is wider. So my view is that there should not be a saying now that finance is the lifeblood of a business. So that does the legal is with this evolving technology or in this digital age. And the legal profession, I can say, is a guardian or a protector to the business as well as its brand image, and also responsibility towards the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. We've run out of time, but just very quickly, we'll do a quick rapid fire with this panel. I'm just going to ask you one question, and I'll request each of you to give us one quick tip or advice to the audience here. As you're all are aware, internationally, there is a shift in the legal regime, and we're witnessing a slew of international legislations. Even if some of those legislations may not have a direct impact on your business, it is also like a precursor or like an indication of things to come. So how are each of you preparing and readying your businesses for these new legislations? Because if you look at GDPR, it came up a few years ago, and then it has obviously had a trickle-down effect. Now we have our own data privacy regime, which is yet to fully take off. So can you just share like one tip quickly, each of you? I would just request you to...
Especially the industry which I represent, I think resources will be a major risk. It can be any resources, it can be, minerals, it can be water, it can be anything. Emission norms, everything is getting tighter and stricter. So you have to, change your technology, you have to do more of, renewable power and, more of process improvement, which leads to lesser emission. So for manufacturing, I think, just to give example, we are running short of time, like steel exports to Europe has been imposed with a new tax. That even if you are emitting in India, higher emission, if that kind of steel is being exported to Europe, there is an additional duty which makes the Indian steel less competitive. So this is a legislation of Europe which is impacting the Indian industry,
right.
And we'll see more of this.
So one tip, what you would like to share with the audience in terms of how you're readying your business for it, right? Like, do you have
more efficient use of resources?
Okay, all right. So what about you, Manish?
So real estate is quite localized, what I used to think, because this is, it goes up to the municipal laws.
Right.
So you'll have you'll have the laws, the central law, the state law, and then the municipal laws, and even the panchayat law, in order to build any real estate into this country. But now we are having challenges with respect to the global laws as well. We will have our clients like HP, Google. So they are asking for what are your, what is your ESG, what is your carbon footprint, how are you going to go towards the fuels and the power consumptions, and how are you going to rate it, and insofar as your buildings are concerned. So Google, Facebook, and all these companies are coming with insofar as those policies are concerned. So we have a regular dialogue with them. Their RE teams and their expectations are there. You have vibrant law firms, and you have the big four who have a capsule for everything. So even before and anything before it becomes a legislation in India has to go through that entire process. So it'll be from a bill to an act is something like from a egg to a caterpillar to a butterfly. So in India, nothing happens overnight. We'll see with the Data Protection Act itself. So therefore, there is enough and more time and cushion which is available. But we are now getting subject to more and more even extra territorial legislations with respect to environment, with respect to anti-ABC laws, anti-corruption laws, cybersecurity, or GDPR, if we are doing things of that nature. So we are getting prepared by these demands and these requirements are dictated by our clients. So India is going to become, China was the factory of the world, India is going to become the service center of the world. All services are going to be rendered over here, as a result of which we find that Chennai would be an extension of the East Coast, and Delhi would be an extension, Gurgaon will be an extension of the West Coast. So you will find that a lot of US laws, a lot of US requirements, which are not the requirements of law, environment, or processes and things of that nature, we are learning them. And if we have to serve the top 500 companies of the world, which are here in Gurgaon, we have around about 700 companies of different sizes from all over the globe. So if you look at the requirement list is long, and from tick the box to real compliance, that's the journey.
Thank you, sir. What about you, Zameer? What do you think would be a tip you would like to give the audience, those who are preparing their businesses for new laws?
Yeah, so experience from Harvard Business School is you should focus in 5 areas: leadership, strategy, culture, operational efficiency, and execution. That's what they hammer you. But I think, so on the legal side, data privacy law is under framing, rules are awaited. I think 3 areas that is already part of your life is artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain, right? Now, whenever, because I've contributed past in the development of law, every discussion starts from the ethical use of that technology. Then the second stage is let's self-regulate that. And third is bringing the law into it, all right? So according to me, my tip would be that get into these 3 subjects of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain. This is going to be the future for next 10 years in the area of drafting agreement to litigation. And that's the area of research where things will evolve as a judgment. So your contribution as a first mover will help in that. That's my tip.
Thank you, Zameer. And Abhishek, what are your words of wisdom on this topic?
Being an external counsel, we focus more on or be mindful and adaptive to the new changes or changes in the law as well as the technology, and looking for looking for more structuring opportunities for our clients. That's what we look for, and that's true that AI is the future, and there we can get most of the groundwork done through AI and put our more time in making strategies.
Thanks so much, fellow panelists. With that, we come to the end of this session. I don't think we have time for questions, but we are all around. So if anybody wants to chat up, please do feel free to do that. Just on a closing note, it's absolutely a great pleasure to talk to an audience who's interested in listening, because GCs are not often heard enough, I feel. And we're the few people who have like a 360-degree view of what's happening in a company. So all the secrets, all the dirty secrets, all the good stuff, we get to know it first. So, if you ever speak to a former GC, I think they're always filled with wisdom. So please take the opportunity to interact with my fellow panelists. Thank you so much.